We can start whenever you're ready.
Good evening, sir. Good evening,
Evening.
sir. Good evening, everyone. I am Group Captain Manisha Rajput, the Secretary of Indian Air Force Educational and Cultural Society. The society administers 130 Air Force schools pan-India to ensure the provision of healthy, liberal and integrated education to the wards of our personnel. Recognizing the fact that though the children have a range of career opportunities available these days, but they also face stiff competition as far as admissions in college is concerned. Furthermore, the education system is continuously expanding, diversifying, and offering them a range of courses which they can undertake. Thus, the importance of career guidance is much more than ever before. I'm glad to share that today we have none other than the Director of Indian Institute of Management, Rohtak, Professor Dheeraj P. Sharma, addressing our children on this topic. On behalf of the Indian Air Force Education and Cultural Society, I extend a very warm welcome to you, sir. Sir, today we have, good evening, sir. Today we have approximately 500 students at this moment and many more joining with us on this session. And you would be glad to know that a number of parents have also given their keenness to be on this session to get enlightened. Before I invite Professor Sharma to address us, let me introduce him to the House, though a difficult job to cover his vast contributions in the limited time. Professor Sharma, besides being the director of IIM Rohtak, is also a professor at IIM Ahmedabad. He has taught and presented research at several institutions in North America, Europe, and Asia. He has over 100 articles published in the journal and has been and also is presently the editor of a number of reputed journals on marketing. Sir has a doctoral degree with a major in marketing and a double minor in psychology and quantitative analysis from Louisiana Tech University. Though Sir's official biodata didn't mention, but we are aware that he is also the architect of a number of national level policies. I also take the opportunity to welcome Ms. Guneet Kaur Sethi, who is the Chief Corporate Relationship Officer. Today in this session, we would have Professor Sharma addressing us first, followed by the Q&A session handled by Ms. Sethi. May I now invite Sir to address us, please.
Namaste, good evening. First of all, I'm very thankful to the Indian Air Force for organizing this talk. I'll break up my talk into a few parts. The first part will generally cover the importance of education and importance of learning. And the second part will cover the challenges that you're experiencing and that you're likely to experience and further experience later on in your life. And then I'll talk a little bit about career opportunities which you may find interesting, and some of them which are available in our institution at Indian Institute of Management, Rohtak. You see, in the last 10 years or so, there has been increased ubiquity of the internet. And with the proliferation of internet, what we have experienced now is that there is information available at the palm of your hand. Think about this. As a person who has grown up in India and had an opportunity to study abroad, the library access in 90s and 2000s was very, very limited. And the sources of information were very, very limited. If you wanted to find out where is Khardung La, you'd actually have to go and talk to an expert, then find a book about it and maybe locate it somewhere. Today, it's very easy for you to just Google Khardung La and you will be able to find out that it's a pass, which is very important, which connects us to Siachen Glacier and so on and so forth. So what does that mean? That means information is abundant. However, information available is of all kinds. Let me illustrate this with an example of Wikipedia. Today, 95% of the students in various educational institutions use Wikipedia as the primary source of information for them. Now, Wikipedia is an open source information system where people give information, write information, edit information, and that information is available. A study conducted by us at Indian Institute of Management Rohtak in December 2020 illustrates that the trust in Wikipedia amongst the students is about 98.5%, which means individuals who are reading Wikipedia pages tend to believe 98.5%, 98.5% of the people who read that believe that it is factual information because it is of the people and for the people. However, one must recognize that it's a humongous enterprise which requires humongous amount of resources. Now, although Wikipedia would claim that most of its resources are coming from charitable contributions from individuals, which allows it to run, occasionally you would also see that they are also sending out messages for them to operate, that they require funding from individuals, and funding could be 50 rupees, 100 rupees, 200 rupees. It is a very, very difficult proposition to run this enterprise purely on charitable basis. Take, for instance, YouTube. YouTube is for profit, it's not charitable. However, videos which are available on YouTube, again, tend to be presented in a specific manner. The searches are guided, unguided. It's a question which many people would today try and delve deeper. And there are scientific articles, research articles, which now offer deeper insights into how information is structured on the internet. When you put in a certain word, you put car, what are the first pages which will appear when you put car? Is it BMW? Is it Volkswagen? Research indicates that 98.2% of the people who do a standard Google search don't go beyond page 1, and 99.5% of the people don't go beyond page 3, which means all that is available that you're reading is covered in the first 3 pages. So first 3 pages will define your perspective. So what does an individual do when there is plethora of information available? Let me ask a question, and this is a question that I've asked a number of students, number of individuals at various platforms. Who won the Second World War? When I asked that question, and many people have joined, I think we've got now about 600-700 people already, and I've learned that the parents of the students are also there. So I think we'll have at least a few thousand people. So if you can type up who won the Second World War. And I've asked this question a number of times at a number of places, and people say largely that the Allies won the Second World War. The US won the Second World War. The Allies, I'm seeing 99% of the people would say the Allies won the Second World War. Majority of the people would say America won the Second World War. However, if I ask them a simple question, that what is the source of information which allowed them to make that statement that America won the Second World War or the Allies won the Second World War? Now, the biggest source of information is internet. I have done a sociological experiment way back in 2008 when internet was coming along in the United States, where hardly anybody picks up a book from the library and internet becomes the primary source of information. So what is the source of information? The source of information would usually be internet. The sociological experiment which I had done in the North American context, I had a class of 60 students, and I asked them, I said, what I want you to do, I want you to write about the plight of Native Americans in 1800s in the US. And if you can write that plight, the class was 3 hours with a break of 20 minutes in between. There was a library right adjoining our building. I gave them an hour and 20 minutes to go to the library and write something about the plight of Native Americans. They went there. Everybody came back. I asked them questions. Everybody had written up something. I asked those students, I said, how many of you what is the source of information? This is 2008. Out of 60 students in my class, 57 had used Google, 2 had used yahoo.com, and 1 had used ask.com. That number, if I was to replicate that experiment, that number would be out of 60, everybody would have used Google, which means the primary source of information for most people would be Google. Think about this. A single source, which is a for-profit company, is determining your perspective on things. You type up, you want information on a particular topic, how it is structured is going to guide your perspective, your viewpoint on a particular thing. So internet is number one. Number two, when I asked in our study, what is the second source of information? The second source of information is movies. Now, India's got a very big movie industry. We produce about, Bollywood alone produces around 1,400 movies every single year. At least one significant movie or two significant movies come out every single weekend, which means about 100 movies a year, which are significant. Hollywood does the same thing. But the pace and significance of Hollywood movies and its proliferation far outweighs the Indian Bollywood movies proliferation and its impact. So the second source of information which students use, that who won the Second World War, are the movies. The movies will depict a particular perspective, that how American soldiers landed in Normandy, and the beaches were taken over, they fought tooth and nail, and then they pushed back, they went through the entire France, came into Belgium, went into Germany, and so on and so forth. Again, the second perspective comes from movies. The third perspective is books. Again, books, I don't know, and I'm asking the students here if they could name, and they don't have to write it, they just have to think about it, that if they think about it, what are the 5 or 10 significant Indian authors who have come about in the last 20 years that you know of? And in addition to that, I would like people to think about what is the book that they have read end to end in the last 5 years. It is nowadays rare to find a student who has read a book end to end or multiple books end to end. Additionally, Indian authors are very, very limited. So the fourth the fourth source of information, you'd be surprised, are music. And again, there is an American perspective. American music dominates. And the fifth one is video games. These are larger sources of information which are available to you, which allow you to structure your thoughts and form viewpoints about important things in life. I had just exemplified that the Second World War is won by Americans and allies is a perspective which has largely come from the internet, largely come from the movies, from songs, from books and novels, and some, to a certain degree, video games. Is that perspective right or wrong? The evidence is really far outweighs that. 80% of the war effort was on the Eastern Front and not on the Western Front. The most significant turnaround in the Second World War was Battle of Stalingrad and Battle of Kursk, where there was a complete shift in the direction of the war and the morale of the forces and the impact. And Russians were the first ones to enter the Berlin and not the Americans. To cut to the chase, how is it that today, when I ask a perspective about a typical American from an American or an Indian, and a perspective about a typical Russian from a Russian and from an Indian, there is a very perplexing image which is available, which means how is it that the Americans are considered to be flag bearers of democracy and flag bearers of independence, autonomy, very compassionate, very caring society, and the Russians, who actually gave majority of the war effort and so on and so forth, are considered to be cold and very considered to be not that compassionate, and also to a certain degree very brutal. These are all perspectives which are formed as a result of one-sided information. So my submission and takeaway for the students, number one, first takeaway, is that when you're forming perspectives, the perspectives must take into account information which is from both sides. Today, lopsided information on various topics will allow you to form perspectives which are really not good perspectives, which means you will get one side of the information because of the volume of information and because of the frequency of information, whereas the other side is not available. I'll illustrate that with an example. Search engine, other than Google, is there another search engine? Number two, when was the last time you read a Polish book or a Russian book or a Belgian book or a French book? You haven't. When was the last time you saw a Russian movie, a Bulgarian movie, a Slovenian movie? You have not. When was the last time you read a book from the author of any of these countries? Largely, we are reading, we are seeing, we are understanding very one-sided perspective. Now, that's where the importance of education comes in. Today, the professors, the educators and teachers who earlier were vested with the responsibility of presenting information to the students are no longer required to provide that information because that information is already available with them at the palm of their hands via smartphones or on laptops or on tablets. That information is already there. The responsibility of the instructors, the teachers, the professors is now to present perspective, which means they must pique the intellectual curiosity of the students, allow them to think, which means they must provide perspectives from both ends and allow students to make a judicious choice in terms of the position that they should take on a particular topic, on a particular agenda, on a particular point of importance. So be it the farmers' Andolan, be it the Jat Andolan, be it Indo-China conflict, be it Indo-Pakistan conflict, be it Pegasus, be it any of these current temporal topics. The importance is to form a perspective, but having taken into account diverse perspectives. And the responsibility of instructors, teachers, and professors, therefore, has shifted from providers of information to providers of perspectives and providers of diverse points of views. Therefore, the importance of education, too, has changed. The importance of education, the true education, would essentially mean allowing students to think more deeply and to also think more, I would say, have more widespread thinking. The right word that comes to my mind is the German word where they say development of Weltanschauung, worldview, a development of a worldview after having taken account of various perspectives from a vantage point is the definition to the best of my mind, best of my memory. So the role of education, therefore, becomes very, very important. Choice of institution, too, therefore, is very, very important. Where do you study? You need to go to an education to get your education in institutions where you find that the faculty is research oriented and they have research standing, and these individuals are able to get different research perspectives and allow you to have deeper understanding of concepts which may be of importance to you, be it engineering or management. In the management domain, IIMs really take pride in providing that perspective to the students because most of our faculty really delves very deep into research subjects, and they're able to talk about a variety of research ideas, and they're able to present and collate research from around the globe and allow students to take decisions. In IIMs, we have a case-based pedagogy, which allows us to give students cases, and they examine those cases and they decide based on models, concepts, and theories, which the faculty then elaborates in the classroom. It stems from the whole point of piquing intellectual curiosity, because there's a whole stream of literature which actually says that there is actually no real learning, everything is recall, that the job of the teachers and professors is to pique your intellectual curiosity, which means you're bestowed with cognitive resources which need to be challenged, and then you would be able to grapple some of the most difficult concepts which may be surrounding you. Second very important challenge which is afforded to you, because this is a very difficult proposition. What I've shared with you is a difficult proposition for the instructors as well as a difficult proposition for you to grapple, which means to get two different perspectives, dwell over it, think over it, then take a vantage point view, develop a Welton challenge. This is a difficult proposition. On top of that, there is a cultural shift in the society today. And I'll illustrate again with, it's not my research, the previous was my research, which I was citing. Now I'm giving you somebody else's research, that this individual, I'm forgetting the name of this individual, he's classified the entire last 200 odd years into three different types of cultures which are perpetuating our society. And globally, it's not just India. The studies have taken place in North American context, but are equally applicable in Indian context, because me and my research teams have replicated those studies in Indian context. So the study says that there are three types of cultures. One culture was a culture which was in 1800s. And that culture was, the culture was called honor culture, which means individuals took their honor very seriously. And they had the ability and the willingness to fight for their honor. That's why we used to have dueling. You would be surprised that dueling remained part of the society till mid-1800s. You will even be surprised that one of the US vice presidents in mid-1800s, some 1830s, 40s, had a duel with one of his opponents and actually ended up killing the person, because that was a culture that existed. It was honor culture. People took insults very seriously, but at the same time, they wanted to settle those insults on their own. And one of the examples of that, is dueling in culture. So I think the name of the vice president was Barr. You can read about him on the internet. You'll find that information. So dueling, you would have seen even in Western movies, the dueling was part of that honor culture. People took insults very seriously. They wanted to settle those insults themselves, had the prowess, had the courage, had the resources to settle those insults on their own. Then in 1900s, all the way till the internet came along, was a generation of what we call as dignity culture, which means we were told, my generation was told, that what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. Which means if somebody insults you, you don't go back and start fighting with that individual. You swallow it and focus on the task at hand and work and continue to dwell on the things that you wish to do, and focus on the outcomes and focus on the goals, and don't bother about this inflection of interest or disruption by another individual. So what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger is the summary of this culture, which means if people are insulting, people are troubling you, you develop courage and strength and your internal strength and continue your pursuit for your goals. The third culture, which has now come about in the last 10 to 15 years, is what is called victimhood culture, which means in the first culture, you took insults very seriously, but you had the courage and ability to confront them and you wanted to challenge them. You did that. In the second, the dignity culture, you don't take insults very seriously and therefore you ignore them, you move on. Now the victimhood culture is you take insults, you take challenges very seriously, but you don't wish to confront them on your own and you would complain. I will illustrate with the example that we have done in Indian context, and we've replicated this study. We give the example of a football game in Indian context, that there is a football game going on and the opposition team, the opposing team is playing dirty, in the sense they're pushing you, they're creating difficulties for you to move along, and they're also getting fined, in the sense they're getting yellow cards and so forth, but nobody's still got a red card, but they're pushing it and they're finding ways to. What would you do if three situations were provided to you? Which means situation number one is that you would start hitting back. Which means if they are playing dirty, you too would start tripping them, pushing them, so on and so forth. Situation number two is that you would now try to navigate the environment, focus on scoring goals, and you would not engage in what they are doing. You will play around it and try to shift positions and focus on doing well in the game. Third is that you would complain to the referee or complain to the authorities or complain to the captain. You'd be surprised that more than 88% of the people, when the study was replicated in Indian context, said we will complain. This is a demonstration of the incidence of victimhood culture. Victimhood culture essentially says that you take every insult very seriously, every confrontation very seriously, but you will not settle it on your own, and you will have an external individual try and resolve this for you. That's why you have seen today in the last 15 to 20 years, ombudsmen, special groups, special advocacy groups, special societies, non-governmental organizations have come about to present your perspective on your behalf to a larger audience. This is going to be one of the most serious challenges to our society, particularly in the education domain, because already you are having shifts in education where it's going to be delivered, where you are expected to absorb it. And at the same time, if you develop a victimhood mentality, which means, hey, you know what, I don't like the way things are, but I'm not gonna come about and talk to the teacher or talk to the instructor and try and mend my ways and try and develop myself into a better individual. I am not going to be the one who is going to find ways to learn around the system. Take COVID, for instance. Online education has been thrust upon me, but if I had the dignity culture, and I would work around it to get significant outcomes. But you would see largely the incidence of the victimhood environment and people complaining and finding ways and not working around the system. So this is a challenge to the education and education delivery and educational institutions. Finally, my third is what career choices you make. I think career choices for you should center around something which offers you an ability to pursue where there is a reasonable degree of autonomy in the workplace in what you're doing. There is reasonable degree of respect. There is reasonable degree of financial outcomes, which means any career which gives you reasonably good financial outcomes, government, non-government, which gives you some respect in society and allows you some flexibility in terms of determining how you will structure your career span over a period of 40 to 30 years, depending on when you start to work, should be the career choice that you should make. Now, while the financial part is very simple, the respect part, I think, has taken a beating because ever since we've started to measure everything with a dollar number and everything has become associated to a single unit of measurement, it has become more of a challenge. But I think money is very important. It's not the important thing, it's an important thing. You need to have significant amount of it so that you can live comfortably, you can have your families live comfortably, and you are able to take hygiene needs. So how much money you need? Money you need is what can take care of your hygiene needs. Motivation needs are something that you can look at. So you can read more about it in what is called motivation hygiene theory, which again should be available to you if you just Google it. And finally, the last in terms of career choices is flexibility. A job which allows you some growth, some opportunity to learn, relearn, unlearn, and some opportunities for you to take breaks, occasional breaks in between, allow you to rejoin, would be the best career choices for you. But at IIM Rohtak, we have a doctoral program, a PhD program, a full-time PhD program, where we actually pay people to study. They are eligible after masters. You can go online and look at our DPM program, but they're physically required to be in the institution for 4 years. We give them a stipend of about 30 to 35,000 rupees per month. We take care of everything else for them, and they study. The second program is our MBA program, which through CAT, people come in, then we interview them, we take them. It's a very competitive process. Usually the CAT takers every year fluctuate between 2.5 lakhs to 3 lakhs. The total number of seats available in all IIMs put together, in all categories put together, would safely be, I would say, around 3,000. So 3 lakh to 3,000, I think the range is about 1:200 is usually the selection rate, which is fairly competitive. Then the third, at IIM Rohtak, we have an integrated program, which is BBA plus MBA program, an integrated program for which we have our own examination. We just concluded that examination on 17th of July. That program, we are the only IIM which offers a BBA plus MBA. IIM Indore offers a BA MBA program, but after our success now, I think a few other IIMs are also going to be offering BBA plus MBA program. It's a fledgling, it's a beautiful program, extraordinary faculty. We've got some of the best faculty from across the world to participate in this program. Additionally, now this year we've started another program called Bba Llb Program. It's a 5-year integrated, which was allowed to get BBA and LLB. This program's admission is determined primarily through CLAT, and then of course the 10th, 12th scores and an interview. CLAT examination is, I think, on July 23rd. The applications for that program are open. It's going to be a fantastic program because there is a great deal of opportunity for individuals to pursue legal career in the domain of, particularly in the corporate world. You would be very happy to know that Government of India just a few years ago even started commercial courts outside of the regular courts so as to deal with the matters which have commercial orientation, which are dealing with business, which means there is a gap for lawyers who have business understanding, who have comprehensive understanding of business management and the various facets of business management, which is marketing, organizational behavior, HR, operations, finance, accounting, information systems, to come in. You'd be delighted to know, actually, not delighted, you'd be surprised to know that lakhs of crores of arbitration is on with many PSUs, and that arbitration requires legal brains to settle. So this is a beautiful program. It's a niche program. We are the only IIM which has it. We started this year, Bba Llb program. I think forms are still open. You can go online and check it out. It's another opportunity. Aside from that, we have a postgraduate diploma in sports management. We're the only IIM which has a postgraduate diploma in sports management. It's an extraordinary program. Faculty from across the globe comes and participates in it. We're supported by the Ministry of Sports and Youth Affairs to specially cater to individuals who have interest in sports management. It's a great program. And we have several other programs. We have short duration programs, 3 months, 4 months on analytics. We are an analytics institution. We have programs on HR analytics. We have programs on operations, project management analytics. We have marketing analytics, business analytics, so on and so forth. I think I'd stop now, and I'll take any questions if there are any questions. Thank you very much. And thank you again to the Indian Air Force Society for giving me an opportunity to talk to everybody. I'm really honored. Thank you very much. And if there are any questions, I'll take them now.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an insightful and thought-provoking talk. We have a lot of questions coming in from students. The first question that we have here is, there has been a trend going on since years that the students crack IIT and then they move to IIMs. So what are your views on this, and how do you see this trend changing in the recent time?
Well, engineers usually are very strong in analysis. And largely they are quite analytical, but articulation and creativity and the ability to think out of the box in a non-structured or unstructured manner is not that refined in an engineering course. So why students come after IIT to management? Because for them to take up higher level management positions, they need to have all of those skill sets which are available in management institutions, and that's why they come here. Now, I don't know whether that trend is going to continue. I think the trend, if you see, is a trend of super specialists, people who have delved deeper into a particular subject. That's my view again. My view is that if the world is now looking for super specialists. There used to be a general medicine, and you have seen in the medicine too, you have MBBS, then you have an MD internal medicine, then somebody specialized in cardiology. And within cardiology too, now one person is looking at pacing, another person is looking at interventions, the other person is looking at bypass. There is a specialist who only does stenting. Super specialization has appeared in that field. And my sense is that super specialization is also probably going to be the way forward in the management domain, which means courses like BB MBA, the integrated courses are likely to see more interest and more proclivity. And we are already seeing that with the numbers in our institution. I mean, just imagine we have, I think, around 180 odd seats, and there are about 14,000 students who apply. And so it is a demonstrable evidence that that's possibly the direction that people are taking.
Thank you, sir. The next question we have is, being a medical student, can a student join an IIM?
Of course, I mean, of course, we have. I'll speak for IIMs, all IIMs put together. I have taught a surgeon, in a 1-year executive program, that a surgeon who took leave from one of the top medical colleges in Delhi, and so there is no reason why you cannot, because healthcare management too is a very important field, and you would see that everything essentially will boil down to management solutions. I mean, how you deliver education. I mean, just see vaccine delivery also requires supply chain management understanding. It requires queuing theory understanding. It requires scheduling understanding. It requires marketing understanding and pricing understanding. So, of course you can.
Thank you, sir. So the next question is, you mentioned about curiosity. So do you think that the concept of syllabus, that is something that limits the level of curiosity among students?
I don't think so. I think in the IIM system, we have the first year, we have electives. Electives is a bouquet. You don't have to take every single course. I mean, there are foundation courses, but then you don't take every single course in a elective. There's a large bouquet of, 30, 40 courses, and you take 7 or 8 of them. It's not, and people have put thought into developing these syllabi. Now, I can't speak for what the universities have to offer, because I don't know how sort of things work there. But at least in the IIM system, these syllabuses or the course outlines are not precluding individuals to have curiosity. And aside from that, we have live projects. We have individual projects. We also have simulations where individuals can satiate their curiosity to the level that they would want to.
Thank you, sir. There are a lot of questions, students who are very curious to know about the financial sector and how it's going to be the future. So in your view, how would be the future of the domain of stock markets and financial career in future?
I am not Mr. Jhunjhunwala to predict the stock markets. And I am not, going to predict anything on but I'll tell you from an economic scenario perspective. India has a population of about 1.35 billion people. The economic stimulus can only occur if that particular population consumes a reasonable amount of soap, food, oil, and basics. The magnitude of our population itself is a significant impetus for economy to grow. 1.35 billion people, if their consumption pattern alters by a few percent, it can create an economy of the size of Pakistan in a single year. It is about consumer behavior. I believe that in the present circumstances, people have inhibited their consumption patterns, which means people are in the state of ambiguity. And when you have a state of ambiguity, you are likely not to be that motivated to purchase things which are somewhat discretional in nature. I believe with the right signals from the government and from the corporate houses, and possibly the confidence of the consumers will grow. Once the consumer confidence grows, individuals will start to consume more, and when the consumption grows, it will have a direct impact on the economy.
Thank you, sir. There have been several questions that are being indicating on studying in India versus studying abroad. So what is, in your opinion, a comparison in terms of institutions like INSEAD, Harvard versus IIMs in India?
I think they're all very fine institutions. All top 100 US universities are very good. All top 20, Canadian universities are very good. All I would say top in US, I would say all top 300 universities are very good. And in Canada, I would say all top 50 universities are very good. In UK, all top 50 universities are very good. They're all good universities. However, if I were to offer my perspective is for baccalaureate degree, Indian education system is far superior and allows for more thinking and allows for more understanding, allows for more self-learning and peer-based learning. Whereas when it comes to master's degrees, and specialized master's degrees, the institutions outside India are relatively better, barring a few institutions. Now, just imagine, I'll tell you, lakhs of students are coming out every year. IIMs only have, I think, 2,500 to 3,000 seats, around 3,000 seats. Where does everybody else go? So we are limited for capacity. At IIMs, we are in the process of deselection. We are really not selecting. We're deselecting. Such a huge population, so many people coming. The top Delhi colleges, you would see, I mean, how the admissions are. But so in Indian context, there are really good colleges, and then there are, really, I would say, colleges which have very strong developmental needs, and there's nothing in between. Whereas in the US context, the top 300, 400 universities are largely all good and at the same level. I mean, those rankings are immaterial. I can tell you, I will safely even qualify the answer. The top 250 universities in the US, there will be hardly any difference between the delivery of education and quality of education. But the top 250 universities in India, the diversity would be very, very big. Top 10 versus the bottom 10, very big gap in terms of delivery of education and quality of education and the quality of faculty. So I think I've answered the question. I think, yeah, if you can get into a top rung institution in India for a baccalaureate degree, you must choose that over a top rung institution of the US or Canada. You are much better here. Even in the master's program, if you can get into one of the top rung institutions in India, you are much better here than there. Because, getting a degree abroad and then coming back and being part of the Indian corporate world or Indian education world, it's challenging. It's not easy, Of course, if your intent is to settle abroad, which means if you wish to settle in the US or Canada or France or Belgium or Germany or in Italy, then there is no answer. Then of course you should pursue your education there. It'll give you easier opportunities to get a work visa. It'll give you easier opportunities to get permanent residence, and if you wish to become their citizen, that's an easier option.
Thank you, sir. The next question we have coming from a PCM student, and I think that would be the question from a lot of people, that there is a perception of having mathematics and bio as the first two preferences in the society. Even if the student wants to indulge into a commerce or a business management domain, it comes always as a third or a fourth option. So your opinion on that, sir?
My opinion is that things have changed dramatically in the last 15, 20 years, particularly in the last 10 years, dramatically. I mean, you were saying that there is a preference back in my generation. If you were taking commerce or arts, you were considered to be nalayak. ये तो बहुत ही ज़्यादा नालायक किस्म का बच्चा है कि आर्ट्स पढ़ रहा है. that view has changed. I mean, we have come really a long way since that perception. There may be a preference for PCM and biology, but there is a greater understanding and appreciation for arts as a stream, for commerce as a stream. There are so many opportunities in terms of employment too. I mean, today consulting firms would prefer a BCom from a BA from St. Stephen's, a BCom from Hindu College, or a BCom from Kirodimal or Hansraj, than a BSc from a lesser institution. So it's not about PCM biology versus commerce and arts. Yeah, I mean, largely people feel, because Indians are very good at analysis. So math sort of is, everybody wants to be good at math. Everybody should be good at math, and it's just a feeling. If you're not doing well at math, you're good at nothing. That feeling may still be there. However, I think the worldview in India has changed significantly, and people are far more accommodative of. There are so many opportunities as BA. There are so many opportunities as BCom. It is extraordinary. The number of opportunities have increased extraordinary pace. So while I still feel there is room for improvement, and people still feel that way, but we've come a long way.
Thank you, sir. The next question is, if you can elaborate a little more on the BBA MBA and BBA LLB program after 12th standard, and your opinion on how the one should differentiate which program to go for.
I think again there are two distinct programs. One is you're becoming a super specialist in the management domain. You're getting a BBA and an MBA. You will have an in-depth understanding of management per se. The second one is a BBA LLB program, which is aimed at making you a lawyer who has a management understanding, who can deal with corporate law, who can deal with arbitrations, who can deal with financial crimes, who can deal with information crimes, who can deal with intellectual property issues. These are hot issues. It is difficult today to find a lawyer who can settle an arbitration between two telecom companies for the lack of understanding of information system, for the lack of understanding of contracts, for the lack of understanding of financial issues involved. How to quantify a financial loss in a telecom company, or versus how to calculate the brand equity of a firm when there is a deterrence to a brand. How do you quantify those legal cases? It's a great deal. I've already told you that government of India has said that now now there'll be separate commercial courts, and many of them have already come up, which itself is a strategic level signal that there is a room for lawyers who are astute management experts. So these are two distinctive programs. These are individuals who will become managers and business leaders. These are individuals who will become top shot lawyers and solicitors, and determine the contracts and relationship between two organizations at the strategic level.
Thank you, sir. The next question is, being the students majorly from the 12th standard, in your opinion, what are the emerging career future options coming up in the next 5 years that students can opt for, in your view?
It's a very tough question. I mean, career options are connected to the industries which are growing. So industries which are growing today, I think the fastest growing industry that we have witnessed during this time is pharmaceutical and healthcare. The second fastest growing is e-commerce. On-demand services are on rise, and e-commerce companies are on rise. Technology companies, particularly in the domain of energy, are rising. And that's another area where I think you would see a lot of jobs and a lot of opportunities. So anything connected with healthcare, anything connected with e-commerce, anything connected with energy are, I think, the three very fast-growing sectors, which would then require professionals to deal with those particular industries and will result in stimulated demand for professionals who can address the issues which would be confronted by those particular organizations within those industries.
So the next question is, what is in your opinion, student being an entrepreneur or going with a job career opportunity?
Now, you know what, at the expense of sounding, I would say, presumptuous, entrepreneurship is really, really inhibited in our society. As a matter of fact, I have been talking about it for a long time, and now government has also started talking about it. In recent times, our Honorable Prime Minister has talked about it. In our society, we hate business people for some reason. As a matter of fact, if you were to pick up the matrimonial section of Times of India or Hindustan Times, you would find very, very proudly people saying a service wala banda hai, earning so and so money. Business people, there's a preference for a person who is working somewhere and not having his or her own business. From a societal standpoint, we have been discouraging individuals from doing business. I can tell you, as a professor and now as an administrator, as a researcher, and as a person who has been around, there is so much opportunity for entrepreneurship. There are so much opportunity for you to do work and to do small things. Today, services are not available even if when you pay. There are not enough educated, qualified people who are in business and who will do small businesses and earn well. And when I say small businesses, I mean businesses which are to the tune of 5 crores to 10 crores range. The micro business would be 1 crore a year, 5 crore, 10 crore. There are hardly any people. Individuals are not coming up. Why they are not coming up is because risk propensity in India is very, very low. Most individuals, as a matter of fact, I can give you data on this. I don't have it handy with me, but I'll safely say that 90% of the entrepreneurship ventures which come out in India are IT entrepreneurship ventures, IS related. Why are they IT related? Why are they IS related? Because it allows people to work half time, which means I have a job and I have 4 friends. I spend 2 hours in the evening. My friend spends 2 hours in the morning. Another one spends 2 hours at night. And you, while maintaining a job, I don't want to burn that bridge. I'm continuing with the entrepreneurship. But IT ventures have a very limited, I would say, success rate. And you witness they are not very. There's so many in number, and as a percentage, it's very difficult. Manufacturing entrepreneurship, actual service delivery entrepreneurship, home delivery services, on-demand services, where you have to put yourself there from morning to evening, the success rate would be 90%. But you have to apply yourself, and people are not willing to apply themselves. If they do, if they start their entrepreneurial ventures in the domain of delivery of services, in the domain of manufacturing, in the domain of creating something, developing something, building something, it's a great success. It's an opportunity. Who is willing to take it?
Thank you, sir. The next question is on psychology. You yourself have been a student of psychology, and pertaining to that, the students want to know why did you choose this career, this particular domain? Secondly, if you can explain the role of psychology in management and how one can become a good psychologist.
You know, I was like all of you. I stumbled into becoming a professor. I wanted to join the defense forces. As a matter of fact, I'm sharing this out loud now. I think there are people listening from the Air Force. I qualified National Defense Academy, and it's on the record. It's available, and I also joined National Defense Academy. But I had a different thought at that point in time, and I thought we'll pursue something else. And I wanted to get into corporate sector. I went into corporate sector. From corporate sector, I got guidance from somebody at a very young age. I was about 21, 22, who said, okay, pursue higher education. I was always fond of reading. I always wanted to read. I wanted to do better. and I pursued doctoral program. And I was lucky. I've always been lucky in life. I was very lucky that in my first year itself, when I was pursuing my doctoral degree, I got an opportunity to teach a class of fourth year students in a US university as a doctoral student. I wanted to earn my fellowship. I wanted to earn some stipend and it was an independent teaching opportunity to teach independently, not assisting somebody. And I taught my first class, and there was no more exhilarating experience than that. And when I wrote my first article, there was nothing more. It was like a finely chiseled piece of craft. It was a finely chiseled piece of a monument that I was creating. It was a wonderful feeling. Academics have the best life. If you're a professor in a good institution, there is no career like that. You have the right level of respect in society. You have the right level of monetary benefits. You can earn as much as you want. You can earn more than your salary. You can do consulting. You can do executive education, double, triple your salary. You can do whatever you want. In government institutions too, there are policies which facilitate that. And you have flexibility, which means you set your own schedule as per your convenience. And finally, there is diversity of work. At IIMs, we just don't teach management. IIMs have been instrumental. If you've gone to Mata Vaishno Devi, you have seen the route planning there. That's IIM's contribution. If you've gone to Tirupati and you like the crowd management there, that's our. If you've gone to Kumbh and you have liked the better management, that's ours. If you have seen the benefits of the new passport system regime, which has come out 10, 15 years ago, where you are able to get your passport so quickly, IIMs have been input. If you have seen the development of postal services, again, the DPRs are developed. If you're seeing ration cards, the electronic ration cards, we are there. Be it J&K, be it the training of Indian Administrative Service officers, be it the training of Indian Police Service officers, be it the training of Indian Revenue Service officers, IIMs particularly, and professors are there. We do all of this. We don't need to talk about it because, that's the nature of our job. I mean, we should remain unknown. That's the best part of being a professor, is that you can make contribution and remain unknown. And it's a good thing. It's a best career. So that's my journey. Now, as far as psychology is concerned, I think there are numerous opportunities for you to pursue psychology as an option. Today, I think after the Mental Health Act, which came out, I think in 2016-17, we're still in the process of developing, I would say, a framework for implementation of that Mental Health Act. Mental health is a big challenge in our country. It's a global challenge. I can tell you for sure that students that we confront every year, the number of students who are experiencing mental health issues is only rising. So the role of psychologists is going to be very, very important. You can pursue a psychology degree in any institution of your choice, and in India or outside. And if you're a psychologist, I think you also develop a better understanding of people. It'll help you become better individuals. It's a wonderful thing. At the end of the day, the objective of education is to become a better individual. And I think it'll definitely help if you pursue that as a career choice.
Thank you, sir. So we are closing towards the time. So can we take a couple of more questions before closing?
We can take one last question, Guneet.
Okay, sir. So the last question we have is, could you suggest any of the books that had left a lasting impression on you and that you can suggest to the students of today in their age group?
There are so many. I mean, there are so many, but I think the last book which I read recently and made an impact is a book called Better Angels of Our Nature by Steven Pinker. It's a beautiful book. It's an excellent book. And if you get a chance, you read that book. It talks about how we are living in the most peaceful time. And it's a beautiful, it's a voluminous book, by the way. Please don't get scared by the size of the book. It's yay thick. It's yay thick. So it's read end to end. And so if you've asked for one book, that's one book that I can think of, because it's the last one I read.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for answering to all the questions so wonderfully. I'm sure the students will be enlightened. I would now request Group Captain Manisha Rajput to please give your
Thank you, ma'am. With this, we come to an end of this session. And I'm sure our children would have been extremely benefited with this educative and informative talk. And looking at the questions, I thought they took some time to actually interact with the Director IIM. And it was a unique experience where Director IIM was interacting with the class 12 students. Thank you so much, sir. And I'm sure this interaction would have given them a new perspective to the choice of their courses and career. And taking a deeper look at it, if they have heard it very carefully, it would give them a new perspective as to how they make their own perspective about various things in life and how they should be more careful. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out this time for our children. And we also thank, on behalf of the Executive Vice Chairman of IF Education and Cultural Society, Air Vice Marshal Rajiv Sharma. I thank IIM Rohtak for extending this opportunity for our children, and a heartfelt gratitude to you, sir, for speaking to them with such a great depth and involvement. Thank you, sir. Jai Hind.
Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir.